This is Shelley Craft coming to you live with the Wall Street View on SNN Networks from the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium 2019 in Vancouver. With me today is Lobo Tigre, the independent speculator, newsletter writer, and a speaker at this conference. Lobo, welcome to SNN Live.
Glad to be on the show.
Good to have you. Now, let's get started with background and what your newsletter's about.
Sure. Why should anybody listen to this guy? Well, my claim to fame, if you will, in this sector is that I worked with Doug Casey, the legendary speculator, the International Speculator, for almost 14 years, taught me everything I know, and now I'm doing it on my own, hence the independent speculator. But why anybody should listen to me is that I've taken all the learning that I've gotten from Doug and others in this sector, including Rick, our friend Rick, and I'm now deploying my own capital, and that is the subject of my newsletter. It's not just what's of general interest out there, it's where am I putting my own money today.
Where are you putting your own money today?
Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about, and the subject of my talk is forget imminent or inevitable. I want happening now, because we have all these ideas. Gold is broken out over 1,400. It's getting headlines. Everybody's all excited. But what if it flatlines again? Nobody can promise us that it's going to go up. So I don't want something that inevitably has to go up or imminently will going to go up. I want something that's happening now. This is a focus of my research. It's the kind of companies that I do. And for people who tune into the talk later, they'll see how we can find, so I look at it as success in progress is what's happening now, or price trends that are already in motion. I don't try to bottom tick markets. I want happening now. That's the theme of my talk today.
So if I had to ask you, what's your key pinpoint to how to make that decision? How would you answer that?
I would say that it's a recipe, and I'll give Doug credit for this. He taught me his 9 Ps of resource stock evaluation, and it starts with the people. You look at the property, the paper, all these kinds of things. But it starts with the people. And really, the best rocks in the world, loaded with gold or whatever you want, can be totally screwed up, that's a technical description, by the wrong guys, right? So I absolutely start my due diligence with the right people. So you have something that's interesting, it's in the commodity I want, it's happening now, and I like the people, or I know people who vouch for them, then that's the key.
How important is track record to Lobo?
Track record is everything. And this is actually something anybody can do. You can Google. If you're looking at a company, you go to their board of directors, their management page, you can Google all those guys. And if you get pages and pages of lawsuits and shareholder revolts, that's telling you something. If you see successful mine builds in companies after companies bought out by the majors or something in the junior space, that's a great track record. It's absolutely the kind of thing I look for.
How do you look upon management change?
Depends. If we hire the guy who built the same kind of mine next door, right, and he's going to do it again, and suddenly he leaves, obviously that's a problem. On the other hand, if you are going from exploration into mine construction or into production, those are different skill sets. So do you want a geologist building a mine? No, he's not an engineer. So there are good reasons, bad reasons, and it depends on the context.
What level of importance does jurisdiction play for you?
Oh, that is critical. And, the good news about a cyclical market, we hate it when markets are down, the prices are down, but that gives us a chance at the prime assets on sale in the great jurisdictions. When markets are frothy, sometimes you have to kind of go down the tree there and look for riskier jurisdictions to find something that's still at a discount. So, long story short, I think at some point, price trumps risk. If something is in Africa in a country I might not be entirely comfortable with, but it's selling for pennies on the dollar compared to what's in the US or Canada, sure, I'll look at that. But when prices are low, and right now we're just coming off a bottom in gold. We're not hitting all-time highs here. We're excited just because we're coming out of a low. So while prices are still relatively down, I'll focus on the prime, lower risk mining jurisdictions.
Is grade still key in your opinion?
Grade has been king. People have said that a long time, but I think of it as margin. Margin is king, and grade forgives a lot. Grade will pay for a lot of, water in your mine that has to be pumped or things that happen. But at the end of the day, it's about the margin, and there are very high grade mines that don't make any money. They're too narrow, too remote, lots of things. You have to look at the big picture. The grade is a starting point.
From your standpoint, when you go and do a workshop at a conference like this, what's the technical nature of that workshop?
Technical may not be the right word. I think the primary value here is that I get to interact with real people, get their real questions. most people don't like to complain, right? Or they may feel a little foolish asking questions that are newbie questions or something. So people won't often write in and ask what they really want to know or need to know. But when you're in a conference and you're standing there, other people are asking questions, and somebody asks something that's even dumber than my question, you have that confidence to ask questions. And I really think that is the prime value for me, is to be able to come and meet readers and find out what they really need to know, want to know, what can I do better. And for them, of course, then they can ask me anything that I can possibly help them with.
Do you learn at a conference yourself?
Absolutely, absolutely. And often from my readers. I'm a smart guy, okay? I know a lot. I've learned a lot over the years. I'm no dummy. But there's only one brain in this head, and I have thousands of readers, and they are so keen, so eager, so on it. I'm alerted to all kinds of things going on in the sector, in the space, by my readers as much as Google News alerts and other sources. So my readers are a valuable resource and part of the value proposition I have for everybody.
We're an organization that has investors globally. Traditionally, a lot of them are in the U.S. Mm-hmm. They seem to stand off in the mining sector. How would you recommend to correct that?
Well, it is true. And the whole mining space is such a tiny piece of the market compared to all these titans on Wall Street, what's going on with the FANG stocks, all these exciting darlings of the day. And I would actually say that is the reason. That is a good thing. It is such a small space that even a tiny shift in our direction has a huge consequence, because it's a lot of investors chasing after a few opportunities. So you get somebody like Ray Dalio going on now, saying things that people like my mentor, Doug Casey, Rick Rule here at Sprott, have been saying for years, but Ray Dalio says it, and suddenly, everybody's paying a lot more attention. That attention, even if a small fraction of it shifts into this mining space, can have outsized resources. And I'll give you one more thing. Remember 2017, suddenly Bitcoin was the craze. It goes up 20-fold. That was a once-in-a-lifetime event for Bitcoin investors. But in the mining space, that kind of 20-fold return, that happens every year. Somebody makes a discovery. A company goes from having nothing, holes in the ground, to suddenly a valuable deposit of gold or copper or whatever it is. That value change is enormous, and the stocks can just go through the roof. So I'm not promising that. Obviously, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I am saying it's not a once-in-a-lifetime event. It happens on a yearly basis in this sector. And there is a lot of liquid capital that sloshes around, chases Bitcoin one year, chases the weed stocks another year. And in a year like this, where gold is making headlines, some of it starts coming back into this space, and that adds to the upside. So I think it is interesting, even for people who are not conventionally interested in mining.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lobo Tigre. Lobo, tell us, where can we find out more information, website, et cetera? Tell us a little bit about the newsletter, et cetera.
Sure. Thanks for my favorite question. The website is independentspeculator.com. And if you stop by, which I encourage everybody to do, one is it will have a little pop-up window that will ask you to sign up for our free weekly email. I encourage everybody to do that. And I promise you, we won't spam you with tons of advertisements on a daily basis. It really is weekly, and we try to send you only the pertinent information that you are interested in. There's also a free report on the 2019 gold breakout. This is something that's happening now, right? Forget imminent or inevitable. It's happening now. It's absolutely free. You can download that. It'll give you an example of the kind of work I do, how it works. There's a 7 case study follow-up, and absolutely free.
Thank you, Lobo. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Wall Street View on SNN Networks. I'm Shelley Kraft. We're coming to you live from the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium 2019 in Vancouver. Thanks again, Lobo.
Thank you, Shelley.